to Truly Force-Free Animal Training. A big part of training with positive reinforcement obviously is using rewards and things that the dog or the animal likes, but it's also using a marker, something that marks that behavior that you really like. So commonly we use clickers. So there's a bunch of different kinds of clickers that you can get at the pet stores. They make sounds that sound like this. So all of them are a little different tones. So if your dog is a little shy of noises, you might want to use a quieter one. If you're outside on a busy street, you might need to use a louder one. But there are a lot of varieties of them, so you can use any of them. Commonly in marine mammal training, they use whistles, so that's also something that you can use. When you're using a clicker or a whistle or a marker to mark a behavior, what you should think about is when you're clicking or you're whistling, you're taking a picture of the behavior you like. So I'm going to be working with my dog, and you'll get to kind of get an example of how that looks. But basically what it is every time if I'm teaching them how to sit, I'm going to click right when their bottom hits the ground. If I'm teaching them how to lay down, as soon as their chest hits the ground, I'm going to click. Like you're taking a picture of that behavior you want. So, and you also want to make sure that you reinforce with something they like. Most of the time we use food purely because it's easy. You give them a little snack, a little treat that's the size of a pea, and you can move on and have lots of repetitions. Again, like little pieces makes it so your training session lasts longer. If you have an animal though that loves toys or a ball and isn't as interested in treats, you can use petting and treats or toys or a lot of different variety of things as a reward, but you need to make sure it's reinforcing for your animal. A lot of times people say, well, can I use petting? Well, we pet our dogs all the time throughout the day. You know, we scratch them, we say, oh, they want to use different kinds of play. If it's something you do all the time, it's not going to be as special. So sometimes when you're training something hard, you might want to use a special treat so they know this is a special interaction. Depending on how hard the behavior is will depend how much of a high reward that you would need. If it's a really, really hard behavior, you might need to use a really tasty treat. If it's an easier one, you might be able to just use, you know, some Cheerios or some other little quick snack. But whatever you do when you're using this, you want to make sure that you're clicking right as the behavior happens. That's key. If you're a little too early, you might get something you didn't want, or if you're a little late, you might get something you don't want either. So making sure. Another thing that's really important to know about clicker training is once your animal knows the behavior and they know it inside and out, there's no problem, you don't need to use the clicker all the time anymore. The clicker is a tool that you use to teach, and once they understand it, you can remove that, and so you don't have to click them for everything. Sometimes I still click my dogs for a sit or a down, even though they know it really well, if I'm in another training sequence, but if it's just on everyday life, I don't use it anymore. So I'm going to show you a couple examples on how to use it with my dog Scout, just to give you an idea of what clicker training looks like. This is my dog Scout. Now she is very clicker savvy. She's used clickers a lot before. So if your dog or your cat or your bird or whatever else you're training with a clicker, if it's never used a clicker before, they may not understand quite as soon. But I want you just to see what it looks like. So this is just a little sample. So I'm going to ask Scout to do a number of behaviors that she already knows. So this isn't going to be learning, but what I want you to pay attention to is that I click right when the behavior happens, and then I give her her treat. I don't give the treat and the click at the same time. I don't click and wait forever to give the treat, and I also don't give the treat and then give a click. It's very, very step by step. Behavior happens, click when the behavior happening, then the treat comes. So if you need to think about it, sometimes it's easier to think click, then treat. That gives you that little pause between clicking and treating. Otherwise, sometimes people get tempted to click and treat at the same time, and that can make it a little more confusing for your animal. So I'm just going to run through a couple things, and I just want you to pay attention to when I'm clicking for Scout. So I'm going to have Scout sit, and then I'm going to give her her treat. These are a little chewy. I like to use ones that are a little softer a lot of the times. Now let's see if we can get her to do a down. Scout, down. This is a good example of waiting for your learner. Sometimes it takes them a minute to process what you want them to do. And in this environment, it's a little sterile because this is normally not how we would train. Scout sit. Clicked right when her bottom hit the ground. Scout also knows how to touch her nose to my hand. So right when her nose hits my hand, I'm going to click. Scout, nose. Nose. And we'll try down again. Scout, down. And if I was working on duration, I would maybe wait to click a little bit. But mostly I wanted you just to see how that behavior works. So one more nose and then we'll nose and click. So just remember that you want to click when the behavior's happening. Once your learner knows that the click means that they did right, it doesn't matter what they do right after the click. If they get up, like you saw Scout, when she laid down, I clicked and she got up. I didn't tell her to stay, I didn't ask her for anything else. So that was okay. She still knows that she got the treat because she had laid down. And that's just through repetition and practice. So I hope this helps clarify clicker training. And I hope you enjoy